protect our democracy, I support changing the Senate rules, whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking action on voting rights.
The barrier to passing any sort of voting legislation has always more or less been the same. It's first, is there 50 votes for it in the first place? And then second, if the answer to that is yes, is the filibuster in the way? My name is Zach Montalero. I'm a politics reporter here at Politico, and today we're talking about the filibuster, President Biden's speech, and voting rights. President Biden and Vice President Harris's goals with their speech in Atlanta was probably to add more urgency to the machinations of the Senate and the fight over voting rights there. But what has kind of been the barrier to that passing is the filibuster. And the filibuster is the rule in the Senate that effectively requires 60 votes for most pieces of legislation.
I've been having these quiet conversations with members of Congress for the last 2 months. I'm tired of being quiet.
When President Biden gave a speech in Georgia, the most significant thing was the change in his tone. He very forcefully called for changing the Senate rules so voting rights legislation can pass, however that may be. Now, that's a pretty broad category. Voting rights activists have grown increasingly frustrated with the White House and with Democrats at large over this issue.
We would have loved if the president used the presidency as a bully pulpit for the past 7-8 months while we've been fighting for voting rights, even getting arrested outside of the White House, begging him to do so.
And so some voting rights activists were frustrated. Some of them skipped out.
At this point, we don't need another speech. We don't need him to come to Georgia and use us as a prop. What we need is work.
Democrats are bringing up voting rights again because they've said this is their most important issue. Deadlines have been quite fungible with Senate Democrats over the course of the Biden administration on voting rights.
If Republicans continue to hijack the rules of the chamber to prevent action on something as critical as protecting our democracy, then the Senate will debate and consider changes to the rules on or before January 17th, Martin Luther King Day.
You're going to set a deadline. You probably set it on the holiday celebrating one of the country's most prominent civil rights icons.
Here we are in 2022, and Black and brown voters, actually, we are being silenced yet again.
There's two main pieces of legislation that the president and other Democrats are talking about. The Freedom to Vote Act would result in pretty significant changes to American elections. It's both on the voter protection side that would expand certain voter access across the country, and there's some elements on the voter suppression side, which is really how results are outputted. The second piece of legislation is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and what that is a functional reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The VRA has effectively been neutered since the mid-2000s when the Supreme Court removed what is called a pre-clearance requirement. These bills don't have support from functionally any Republicans. Republicans say they don't believe in federalization of elections.
This is not about protecting our republic or our election. This is about Democrats in Washington taking over every election in every state.
Republicans have focused on what they say is election security matters. A lot of Republicans don't like drop boxes and increasing ID requirements. That's where a lot of Republicans' focus have been, both in the states and federally. These bills would kind of cut against that.
These voter ID laws and the statistics have shown that the majority of the people who did not have the government issued IDs were African Americans, were elderly, were poor.
Republicans broadly believe that there shouldn't be a change in the filibuster, and they say that if there is going to be one, both A, will make a lot of tough votes happen, and B, when we take control of the Senate again, if it's not 2022, 2024, 2026, whenever Republicans next take control of the Senate, they'll abide by those rules too. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has a tight path to actually get a change to the filibuster. There's some key members of his caucus who have pretty much resisted filibuster changes. That principally is Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona and Joe Manchin from West Virginia. There's also no real right now definition on what changing the filibuster means. Some people want something as expansive as getting rid of it or a carve out. Others are saying it needs to be a talking filibuster.
The job of a senator is to vote. We are going to vote.
As the president said in his speech, everyone could have their own idea of what modifying, tweaking, nuking the filibuster is. Is there an acceptable solution for all 50 members of their caucus that would change the filibuster? We've seen time and time again throughout 2021 that the answer to that question has generally been no.